This debut author managed to do what most self-published writers can only dream of. She turned her first book into a viral sensation before it even hit the shelves.
Pre-order for a debut. I'm an independent author. Cool stuff.
Now, imagine selling 6,000 copies of your first ever independently published book on the first day of its release. But then people start to read your book, and then the reviews start to come out. And it turns out a lot more people hate your book than they like it. They hate it so much that droves of people on TikTok and YouTube and Reddit are making posts and videos criticizing every single chapter, line, character, and every decision that you've made up until this point.
One more thing on the Audra Winters of it all. Audra Winters is not a marketing genius. She is not a book marketing savant. She is a white girl with a dream. And that's all it takes for y'all. That is all it takes for y'all.
And the writing does kind of come off as fanficky, as some people in my comments have pointed out already.
The dialogue did not feel natural or authentic.
I paid $35 for this. Like, I pre-ordered this. I have a signed copy of this. And how did this happen?
They hate your book so much that they forced you to re-edit the entire thing and re-release it just so that you can deliver on the hype that you've built thus far. Well, this is exactly what indie author Audra Winters is going through right now with her debut novel, Age of Scorpius. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about the situation up until a couple of days ago when someone in my Discord server let me know what was going on TikTok. But after I caught wind of this entire situation, I did a lot of digging and deep diving into what people were saying, and I've come to the conclusion that some of this criticism is warranted. I think Audra Winters bit off a little bit more than she can chew, and ultimately she did not deliver the product that she promised. But, because there is a but, I don't agree with all of the dogpiling that's been going on the internet. I think a lot of people are giving her a lot of flack, and yes, some of it is warranted, but at the end of the day, this was her first time publishing a book, and there's bound to be mistakes made along the way. One of the main things that I've been seeing around this entire situation is that Audra Winters scammed her readers and her audience with this poor quality book. Now, I haven't read a single word of it yet, but judging off what most people are saying, I'm inclined to believe that the book is not of the quality that people were expecting. However, I don't think any of this was done out of malice or greed or even intentionally. I do think Audra Winters tried to deliver the best product that she could. In fact, I think the real sin here is that Audra Winters didn't cheat her audience. I think she cheated herself. After doing research on what Audra Winters' process was for writing this book and seeing all of her responses to the criticism, I believe that Audra Winters tried to cheat the process of becoming an actual good writer. Now, I'm not saying she's a bad writer or anything, because as I've said, I've not read the book yet. But what I've seen most people say is that the book comes off really amateurish and it doesn't seem like it was edited at all. But a lot of Audra's videos are talking about all of the rounds of edits that it went through and all of the employees that she hired to help her make the book as good as possible. So I'm not really sure what to believe. I do think Audra Winters did try to skip the line a bit and try to jump straight into accomplished author without actually taking the necessary steps to become a good writer. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. Writing is hard, and becoming a great writer is even harder. It takes years before you'll be able to write anything that's worth reading and that's worth people spending their hard-earned money on. And from the outside looking in, it kind of looks like Audra Winters tried to speed run the process. She hired a full team of experienced editors, line editors, graphic designers, artists, and more. While doing my research, it kind of seemed like she was building a company instead of writing a book, which I think is one of the main mistakes that she made in this whole process. Her socials also seem to scream boss babe CEO instead of aspiring author. Now, that's all good and well, and I'm not telling people that they shouldn't outsource certain things to help make their book as good as possible, but I do think Audra went way overboard. And at the end of the day, none of that matters if the writing in your book isn't good. But before we get more into that, I want to give a little bit more context on the Audra Winters Age of Scorpius situation in case you've been living under a rock like I was. Here's the short version of the whole thing. Audra Winters, author of Age of Scorpius, gained a big following on TikTok before her book even launched. People were hyped, so hyped that she secured 6,000 pre-orders of her book. Art was made, drafts were drafted, and snippets were released. Looking at this cover now, I definitely remember seeing this book making the rounds a few years ago and thinking, wow, this cover looks amazing. But once the book actually came out, the feedback wasn't great. The book is currently sitting at a 2.6 rating on Goodreads, with many of them being 1-star reviews. Readers pointed to editing issues, pacing problems, and overall writing quality. A lot of people believe Audra Winters intentionally scammed her readers. A lot more people have been demanding total refunds, which Audra has refused to give. From what I've seen online from Audra's own TikTok profile, she hasn't taken the criticism too well, which isn't all too surprising. However, despite all of the negative reviews, Age of Scorpius was picked up by a traditional publishing house, and Audra is rewriting it for traditional publishing. She aims to republish the book sometime later this year. If you want to learn more about the situation yourself, I'll be linking some of the videos that I watched down in the description. But I'm not here to pile on to the criticism that Audra is receiving right now. There's tons of videos out there doing that, and that's not exactly why I wanted to make this video. However, I do want to use her situation as a case study for any aspiring authors out there. I mainly wanted to make this video to show what can happen when you try to leapfrog the most important stage of the writing process, the learning stage. I've always compared the skill of writing to be like a muscle, and I'm not the only person who's come up with this concept, but it's something that I've always told myself in my journey as a writer. The more you do it, the stronger you get. The more you write, the better of a writer you become. Writing itself is almost like a sport. As a writer and an athlete myself, the processes are pretty similar. You have to put the work in, and a lot of that work occurs in private. Now, unlike sports, writing is a very mental and cerebral process. Of course, there's the mental game of sports as well, but writing, a lot of it happens inside of your own head. Of course, you can hire as many trainers and coaches and professionals as you want, but at the end of the day, your progress and development depends on you and you only. And because writing is such a solitary hobby, a lot of writers think they're ready way before they actually are. And I definitely think this is what happened with Audra Winters in the Age of Scorpius. Now, from what I learned about her book, she claims to have been working on it for the last 10 years, but the criticism that she seems to be receiving might suggest otherwise. Now, I can't say if this is true or not. I haven't read the book yet, and I wasn't with her when she was writing it, but let's just say that she was working on it for 10 years. However, that doesn't dismiss the fact that this was her first book. And personally, I think that most people's first crack at writing a book should never see the light of day. And what I mean by that is you shouldn't try to publish and sell the first ever idea you have, because most of the time, it's not going to be very good. It doesn't matter who you are. Most of the time, your first crack at writing a book is going to be bad. It doesn't matter how many times you revise it. Doesn't matter how many times you edit it and rewrite it. Most of the time, the concept is just not going to work because it's going to be the first thing that you tried working on. Now, this is a topic that I want to get into in another video because that's not what I'm talking about today. But I do believe that publishing your first ever book is a mistake. My main point is that you cannot skip the unglamorous part of writing, because I'm not going to lie to you, writing is difficult. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It is very tough. The writer's block, the bad drafts, the rewrites, the negative feedback, the cutting scenes or getting rid of characters that you love, or even abandoning a story that you love altogether. You can't skip out on any of that stuff because all of that is crucial on your journey to becoming a great writer. These are all things that I've done. I've written books so bad that I wanted to delete them forever. And in some cases, I did. But all of those terrible stories taught me crucial skills. They taught me pacing. They taught me my voice. They taught me how to build and carry a compelling story across 100,000 words. And most importantly, they taught me not to take any shortcuts. I think a lot of people love the idea of becoming an author, but they don't really think about what it means to be a writer. Because in my head, those are two very different things. These days, in order to be an author, you can't just be a writer. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to be a marketer. You have to be all kinds of things, and it doesn't just stop at writing. And I think a lot of people try to just jump into the author lifestyle without really realizing what it takes to be a great writer. Because in order to be a successful author, you have to master the writing part first. And now with social media, we can see just how glamorous the author lifestyle can be. We can see the book signings, the fan art, and even the writing vlogs on YouTube. But in my opinion, all of that is supposed to come after the work has been put in. But lately, I've been seeing a lot of people start with the branding, with the merch, with the fan base. And even I'm guilty of this. I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I started my channel so that I could have a fan base of people who are interested in my work before I even publish my first book. And I'm not even necessarily saying that there's anything wrong with this, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more people jump straight into the author lifestyle without actually learning what it takes to be a good writer. Believe me, jumping straight to the finish line of the author life sounds amazing. Getting pre-orders, seeing all of the hype online, and making money feels like progress. It feels like success. But if your actual book isn't good, if you can't deliver on the hype that you've been building online, it just turns into pressure. And that pressure eventually turns into disappointment. And not just for your readers, but for you as an author. And that brings me to my next point. You are going to suck at writing. It's going to happen, and there's nothing that you can do to circumvent this whole process. You're gonna suck, especially if you are a newer writer working on your debut. And that's okay. In fact, I'm even giving you permission to suck. I want you to suck.
What did he say?
Pause. What I'm basically trying to say is you can't become a good writer if you aren't a bad one first. If you skip that phase, if you try to skip the process and the transformation of becoming a good writer, well, I think you've seen what happens. Prioritize the process first. Fall in love with writing in every single aspect of it, even the parts that don't feel as good. It's okay to put all that other stuff to the side and just focus on honing your craft, because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Don't worry about the marketing, building hype, and appealing to a fan base before you even have a completed, polished body of work. Because if you waste time and energy building up a fan base and you can't deliver a product that they want to consume, well, you're just setting your own self up for failure. In my opinion, the whole point of being a writer is to grow your craft. And that growth only happens when you recognize your own imperfections and you build upon them and commit yourself to becoming better every single day. One piece of advice I have for any aspiring authors or people working on their publishing debut is to ask yourself one crucial question. If you weren't able to make a single cent off of your books, would you still write them? I know what my answer is, and it's 100% yes. In fact, I've written over 11 books and I've not made a single penny off any of them. And it's because I love the process, and at the end of the day, I'm writing for myself. Of course, I want people to read these books. I want people to love what I write and become just as invested as I am. But at the end of the day, I'm the person writing these things, and I have to fall in love with them first. It has to start with me. And I want all of you guys to think about that yourselves. Would you write your books if you couldn't sell them? Publishing should be the finish line, not the starting point. You have to fall in love with the grind. You have to love the hustle. You have to love the rewrites, because once you eventually cross that line, you're gonna know that you earned it. Now, if Audra Winters or any of her fans ever see this video, I really hope that she can turn her world into a really accomplished setting and she can create wonderful stories out of it, because from what I've seen, she's super passionate about what she's doing, and I just hope that the product can match that passion she has. It's everyone's dream to turn their ideas into a published book and then sell that book to a audience of adoring fans, and I think that's what Audra Winters tried to accomplish. And if you really think about it, she did accomplish it. It's just that her first book didn't really turn out the way that I think she was hoping. But there's still hope for her, and there's definitely hope for all of us. And I want all of you guys to learn from the situation and try not to make the same mistakes that she did. I'm definitely going to take all of this into consideration when it's time for me to publish my own debut novel, whatever that ends up being. Now, before I get out of here, I want you guys to answer this question down in the comments. What's one of your major anxieties when it comes to publishing your first book? Whether you're pursuing traditional publishing or indie publishing, what is the thing that you're worried about the most? Is it the negative reviews? Is it the deadlines? I just want to know, what are you most worried about when it comes to publishing your first book? I've been LDJ Writes, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.